All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. As you join, please put your name and where you are joining from in the chat. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are thrilled to be here. Welcome. We're going to wait a minute or two for more folks to join. So as you are joining, please put your name, where you're joining from, as well as your business in the chat. All right. Hello. Cool. All right. Let's get started. All right, so my name is Erica Thompson. I am the Senior Director of Creative Product here at Suna. Welcome to another edition of our holiday content webinar series. As a reminder, we are going to be live every Wednesday from now until October, where we'll be sharing tips and tricks from e-commerce experts and brand marketers. Now, today, I am thrilled to introduce Lisa Spira, the Vice President of Content Intelligence at Persado. Hello, Lisa. Thanks for joining. How are you today?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And I meant to say Sado, so I'm so sorry.
I
I
wasn't
meant to
going to
say
correct you.
Persado.
Yes, it is Persado. That's okay.
Yes. Well, I have just been so excited for this webinar because I really think sometimes we focus so much on the visual aspect of content and not enough about the copy. And so we are just absolutely thrilled to have you. And a question I have is, how did you find yourself both in the world of language and technology?
That is an interesting story, and it stems from a very particular interest of mine, which is onomastics, which is the study of names. I have been obsessed with names since I was a little kid. I can't tell you why, I just think they're really cool. And so when I was studying linguistics, I decided to focus my studies on onomastics and learn everything I possibly could about names. And so I wrote a thesis on names, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm one of those college students who has studied something totally worthless. What will I do? And I ended up, through a professor noticing a job post, finding a job at a technology company whose technology was based around names. So this technology was able to predict ethnicity based on a name and address. And my job there was to research names and patterns in names and the linguistic structures of names, first names, last names, to make this technology more accurate. And that is where I got really interested in technology, in product management and product design, working with engineers. And so when I was looking to broaden my horizons, as much as I love names, there aren't that many technology companies who really need an expertise in names. I had studied linguistics. I'm a writer. I'm really into words too. And so that's how I ended up at Persado, who has a really interesting technology to help marketers that's all grounded in understanding words, how they interact with each other, and what they can do for you.
Wow, I love that. It's so fascinating. I think it's so important and so really exciting to have your expertise for this webinar today.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, let's kick it off. I'm going to leave the stage and kind of let you take over. So go ahead, Lisa.
Sure. Great. So this webinar is how generative AI can motivate your customers to take action. One of the things that I learned working with AI is how important emotion is in motivating any type of customer action. We think as marketers that it is about our product and our offer. And a lot of times we also think it's about design of an image. But what I learned working with all of Persado's data and Persado's AI is that emotion tends to be the driving force. I think it's really surprising because you think of AI as a robot, as the opposite of something emotive. And you think of emotion as how we humans connect. And so, where I've spent the last couple of years is working with AIs that have told us emotion is important and are then able to reproduce emotive content that motivates action. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, because I think there's a lot that we can all take from this surprising pair. And we highlighted this off the top, but words are super important in your content. I think that we all immediately today, especially with today's very visual platforms with photos and video, we kind of lose track of the importance of a word. And so at Persado, we really focus on measuring the value of individual words and phrases. We're really all about the copy. We agree with Emily Dickinson here that a word has a lot of power, and we want to learn everything we can about every word. Persado classifies words and phrases according to our own wheel of emotions, which is based in socioeconomic research and just how people interact with words and with feelings. We have 5 different categories of emotions at the top level. And then we have these 15 different emotions that we feel marketers can really tap into and that our research has shown really work for marketing in different contexts. So we have at the top emotions like exclusivity, making someone feel special. That would be a pride emotion. Or we have, moving around to anticipation, we have emotions like curiosity, making someone wonder what might be coming next. On the fear side of things, we have emotions like urgency, or regret, like what if you miss this? You need to move quickly. Those put a different emotion in people, but all of those types of language can make people take an action. And then back over on the more positive ones, we have the joy emotions, like excitement, like enthusiasm, often for products or services. And then we have the trust emotions, something like gratitude, feeling appreciative of customers. All of this, when it stands out in your messaging, it makes customers take an action. And no one says, looking at this, like, wow, that subject line of that email or that SMS message, like, that was making me feel special. But it's something that we subconsciously respond to. The way that Persado works is we take your control, the message that you were going to send, and we test that against many, many different options. And then we find the winner. We might be sending 8 or 16 variants into market, but all of those are structured in a test so that we're testing every little bit of the language to come up with a winner. And when we come up with a winner, it works. It drives more clicks, more orders, more money. In this particular example, we have a banner where the customer can sign up for an email to get emails. And the original here is sign up and save 20%. And the winner here adds a different emotion. You've really won big. It brings in that idea of achievement. So this is a really exciting winner. And and this is kind of how Persado works. So moving along, it's true. Words matter. That's where we're going to look at copy as so important. We've looked at 10 years of insights, and we've determined that you can take a message like, from us to you, 30% off. And you can get to that message by looking at all of the different data that we collect through our testing. So, for example, we've sent over the past 10 years of data, we've sent more than 100 billion digital impressions, 1.5 billion end-to-end customer interactions, more than 645 years of experimental knowledge through all of this testing. 15.5 million generated messages. That's how we test and learn. and what works in words and messages to come up with this email, with this headline, with this subheadline, and with this particular CTA. This is what it looks like when we tag messages. We tag from us to you with that emotion of exclusivity. And we see that in this particular message, 20% of the uplift, of the contribution, is from starting with that phrase, that exclusivity that really resonates with the customer. The emotion of intimacy here with, hey there, fashionistas, feeling really welcoming and connecting with the customer, that also was really important in driving the success of this message and choosing this one as the winner. We've also measured all sorts of other things. We've measured the product and the offer. We've measured a feature like newness. We've measured a narrative. That's how we connect with what a customer might value. In this case, it's individuality. And the CTA, in this case, it's an exploration CTA with find. We have lots of different ways to structure these tests to find exactly what works. And we've been building this knowledge base for more than 10 years. I think we're actually at 12 years now, or just about. Well, that's all well and good. But this is a holiday webinar, right? We want to know what copy is going to work for the holidays. So what does all of our years of testing words and phrases say about the holiday season? So the best emotions for holiday retail campaigns are some of the ones that are, three that I'm really excited about because they are from very different places on the wheel. We have gratitude, achievement, and attention. But what does that really mean? So attention messages are like wake-up calls. They want to tell you that something is important. So the words announcement is a really good attention message, like merry announcement. In this case, we're just kind of giving it a holiday feel. Calling all secret Santas, another holiday feel, really an attention getter. Thanksgiving PSA. You could also do attention without making it so specifically holiday. You could say FYI. You could have something that's like an alert. A lot of this depends on your brand voice and what you're marketing, but having something there, usually at the beginning, that's really a wake-up call to those reading it, that something is important, that's what the attention emotion is about. And that's why it's in the fear category, because it's kind of like, hey, heads up, something important. Gratitude. I'm not surprised that gratitude year over year is a top performer around the holidays. We all kind of have a lot of gratitude in our minds around the holidays. So one thing that, using the word thanks, always good. So here we have as a thanks as an intro. That's great. These would all be, again, sort of like email subject lines. But of course, this is true across channel messaging. These are not of course. These are the top emotions across all channels. So of course, you can translate this into a web banner like we saw on that other slide, an in-app notification or an in-app banner, or an SMS message or a social post. So what else do we have? Really making people feel acknowledged and appreciated, a little love from us, or a New Year's gift, or the idea of you deserve, you're appreciated, you deserve an extra 20% off all sales styles. That's gratitude. The last emotion that rises to the top for the holidays is achievement. Achievement is a great emotion because I don't think we think about that often, that making our readers, our customers feel rewarded or praised does a lot for getting them to click on messages. So You've Unwrapped is a great way to use achievement. You're winning big. You can even use the word resolutions achieved. Imply that they've accomplished something, that they've earned something. That's a really great way, especially with holiday content, to really engage your audience. Okay, so if those emotions perform well, what emotions don't? Excitement and fascination are the emotions that our marketers go to. We see this all the time because, as I said, what we do is we take your control, your first pass, and then we optimize it based on our data. And the most popular emotions that we see in controls, excitement and fascination, especially around the holidays. Excitement is the idea of enthusiasm or hype, positive news, often about a product. You'll love this. Fascination is about interest in a product or an experience or a service. It's how we do popularity or spotlight. It's trying to make that something that's a bit more emotional when it's really pretty heavily producty. It's the emotion of newness. And these are both the emotions of kind of the news. And I think as marketers, we often gravitate to like, we've got news. We're excited about it. We have something special to share. And that isn't necessarily the best way to add words and phrases to your content that's going to make them really resonate with your customers. So less excitement and fascination is my recommendation. Well, you might be saying, okay, I know what emotions I should use, but isn't that going to get really stale? How do I make that work for me? So, what I wanted to do is talk about some holiday trends that we're seeing in the market and how we evolve language, even when we're dialing in on the top performing emotions that the data says are the best way to reach our customers. So the first theme that we're going to look at is holiday creep. I remember being a kid and the holidays started at Thanksgiving, and that just isn't the case anymore. In fact, last year, I think I went to Costco in September and it was all decked out for the holidays. So, holiday creep, the holidays start earlier and earlier. As many as 70% of shoppers are mulling October sales to pick up holiday gifts, decor, and other items on their list from an NRF holiday consumer study last year. So people have started shopping early. Here we are doing a webinar in August about the holidays. How are you going to keep this content fresh throughout the holidays? The great thing is that language really and truly is infinite. So you can take the idea of, say, one emotion, attention, and then change the pace, adapt it for where you are in the holidays. It can still be about capturing importance and attention and be a wake-up call, but we can change. We can call out early shoppers. We can call out last-minute deals. We can say exactly attention in that. And we can just really use the same idea of just getting front and center and capturing a little bit of, that person scanning their inbox or their texts, but change the pace of it. We have infinite ways to use attention. Another trend that we're noticing with the holidays a lot of now is the idea of self-gifting. 75% of respondents to this Deloitte Holiday Retail survey last year are tempted to buy gifts for themselves. There are a lot of different factors into why self-gifting is becoming more and more popular, but the truth of the matter is that it's becoming more and more popular. And so that's a huge market that you can lean into with holiday campaigns if you use the language well to do that. We recommend focusing on the word you in holiday language for self-gifting and pulling the you in with the holidays. You does tend to be a powerful word in marketing kind of throughout the year. Looking at the middle here, something for them, something for you. You deserve it. Now the gratitude, that holiday emotion, that sentiment is focused on you. Or achievement and attention that emotion that we've talked about a lot for the holidays. You've more than earned it. Focusing that achievement onto the person who, in this case, might be getting a treat for themselves. Gratification, another great emotion. This one is more about gain and getting something. You're granting everyone's wishes this holiday season, including yours, starting with the you in a more traditional holiday sense, and then coming back to you yourself. There's a lot of opportunity to capture that self-gifting market with language that speaks to them. And Gen Z. Our customers today, especially the retailers that we work with, are really excited about reaching Gen Z. Now, it's true, some of them are still in middle school, but some of them have graduated from high school and college and have started to become today's consumers. Gen Z compromises a significant percentage, 40% of total US consumers, and wields a staggering clout for buying 143 billion, according to this particular Forbes article. There are a lot of different stats on Gen Z, and it's kind of a moving target right now as they grow older, but also it's a really important market. So how do we reach Gen Z? One thing we've noticed testing over and over in market is that the emotions don't need to change for different generations of people. What needs to change is the feel and the tone. The emotions are so human. And so if attention and gratitude and achievement rise to the top, then we just need to make those sound like Gen Z. There are two different ways to do this. The first is the way that I have as an example on the slide, which is kind of change your tone to make it sound the way that Gen Z texts to each other. We have caps here, we have emojis, we have abbreviations. We've got kind of some unusual sentence structure. Thanks, it's new, you. It's very playful. And this is one way to capture the Gen Z crowd around the holidays, is have content that sounds like it's written by and for one of them. I did not write these because I am not Gen Z and I don't know how to speak their language. But we can, of course, work with technology to help us do this. Also, another thing to be aware of is to be authentic in your brand. If these types of messages, these notifications don't sound like you, don't use them. Gen Z is, on a whole, very interested in brand authenticity, a brand that says something and has values and values that they align with. They want to believe in the brands that they support. So if it looks like you're changing out words just to sound like Gen Z, it's going to feel fake. But if this is your brand voice, or it could be your brand voice for maybe specific product lines, you can take the same emotions and just really make it feel like Gen Z. So the last section I want to get into is from machine learning to generative AI. We've done so many tests at Persado. We use machine learning and AI to figure out what language is going to be great, and then to surface that language into the campaigns that we run, to run more tests and find the winner. But then there's generative AI. What is generative AI, and how does it fit into the equation? Generative AI is AI that creates new and novel content. It doesn't necessarily create content that is the best for any given situation. It creates content based on statistical analysis, based on everything that it's seen. It creates content that is novel and follows these patterns. So how generative AI fits in, I think most people are familiar with generative AI since ChatGPT kind of hit the scene. And a lot of folks have gotten to play with this novel technology and learn some of its strengths and weaknesses. Here's how I think about what's available to you today as a marketer and as a copywriter, although with generative AI, you can also generate images and video and audio and code. So, okay, it could be with all of your creative or code. So one is you, the individual copywriter, can create content. So when you are a person, just you are creating based on your own lived experience, what you've seen through your eyes. And that's really great because you're an expert in a lot of things. You're an expert in the brand or the industry or the vertical that you work in. You're an expert in the channel, potentially, that you send copy in. You're an expert in maybe writing or editing. You have a lot of expertise that is really valuable, and you create great copy for your needs. But what else is now available to you is really exciting. So one is like ChatGPT, like the foundational models that are available. These models create content based on every person's lived experience. They have seen the whole world. They have seen all of the copy and content of the internet, have read all of Wikipedia, all of Reddit. They've books. These models are trained on so much data. So now we've moved beyond your lived experience as the copywriter. And instead, we've moved to everyone's lived experience. These models are looking at patterns of everyone's lived experience in order to create really great copy, in order to create new and novel copy, in order to follow the patterns of everyone's lived experience and create. Really cool. But is that the copy that you need? Is everyone's experience the copy you need? That's where we get to point solutions, enterprise solutions, other tailored and very specific solutions like Persado, which is an industry that is exploding over the last 2 years, of companies who are taking that foundational technology and putting data behind it, specializing it. That's the field that I've been working in at Persado since 2020, really, before anyone knew about generative AI. But it's been, how do we take all of that data and all of the testing and all of the AI and machine learning that we already have to surface the very best language and make these models that generate new content surface the best language for me, for my industry, for my channel, for my time period, like the holidays. And so we have fine-tuned our models to create content that is emotional. And here's where we get to that pairing between emotion and AI. AI can be robotic, but if AI is trained on all of human writing, and AI is trained on our data that says the most emotional content is what's going to work. Now we have an AI that writes something that sounds very human, that's really and truly going to resonate and generate those KPIs you're looking for: clicks, conversions, revenue. Let's look a little bit at how this works. So generative AI can do something intelligible. Let's say a description of what sweaters are. And here it is. It writes a very nice description. It can write intelligible content. It can also write relevant content and explain relevance. Maybe a description of how sweaters are relevant to fall. And here it is. That's great. But how do we get to AI that writes marketing content? That's really where I've been focused. We call it motivation AI at Persado, but it's something that will say, okay, for this subject line, we're going to need some emotional language. And here, you're going to love these cozy sweaters for fall. This is excitement, which I said not to use for the holidays, but does work really well some other times. And then also tapping even deeper into that knowledge base that we've built based on all of that testing, tapping into someone's specific motivations. We can realize that there's an audience out there where indulgence will really work for them. So a cozy invitation, which is an intimacy emotion, indulge in our luxurious soft sweaters for fall. So we can really, of course, you can ask generative AI to just write you a subject line, but to get these ones that will be emotional and motivate action, that's what we've really practiced at Persado. And it's what I'm really excited to work on. Persado is built for enterprise communications. These screenshots are really small, so you probably can't see them, but we have this platform that really focuses on some of the channels. This is just some of the channels, but the channels that marketers are using, and then writes content that it tags with emotions so that you can get the right emotions, that it scores based on our database, how well we think it will perform, whether it's aligned with a brand, and really gives you infinite more copy that you maybe wouldn't have made on your own. I like to think of it as a partnership between me and the AI. I will use the AI to write content that I never would have thought of. It will use the data to do that. And then I will take that, I will edit it that, and that can go back into training. That can be tested in market and then go right back into training so that the AI learned what works. So with AI, with emotion, we're generating action and we're generating revenue. We can start with this season's most popular boots, and we can write tons and tons, infinite different ways, pulling on the different emotions for the different audiences, for the different time periods of the holidays, to get something that's going to resonate with your audience, and that is predicted and data back to resonate with your audience every single time. That's my secret to marketing copy and the emotion and to more revenue. So that was my whole presentation. I'm Lisa Spira, and I head up content intelligence at Persado. And of course, here's how to, contact us to learn more about what Persado does.
Yes, this is fantastic. Thank you. All right, let's dive into some questions. Haley has a question. How would you say Persado differs from ChatGPT?
That's a great question. So when you use ChatGPT, you're using a foundational model, the main one that most folks know about, and that model is trained on everything and trained to do everything. So it's not an expert in marketing, it's not an expert in your brand or that channel, but it can write you marketing subject lines just as well as it can, write you pretty much anything else you want to write about any subject. Where Persado differs is that we're really specializing in marketing copy. So we have fine-tuned our model on all of this data that we have for about 12 years of testing in market and what works, what actually generates clicks and conversions and revenue. And so we're able to have our models lean into writing more emotional copy and many of the other things we've learned about copy.
Great. Oh, and I actually had the same question. I know, here at Suna, we really, really believe strongly in A/B testing content, right? And so, how many variations of copy would you recommend for A/B testing in email and ads and social posts? What is your recommendation?
As much as you're able to actually work with. So at Persado, we do what's called experimental design testing, where we typically send 8 or 16 variants that represent hundreds or thousands of permutations because of how we break the language down and then put it back together into the messages that are going to be sent out. So when we measure the response rate, we're able to measure exactly what words and phrases contributed the most to that performance of that particular message. And there's a lot of complicated math and data science that goes behind how this works. It's a really powerful testing system if you have the resources to do it. If you don't, then you need to think about what resources you do have and what's going to be viable. Also, what you can learn about on the back end. For example, when we do basically A/B testing with some of our clients who don't have the resources to do the experimentation, we always try to send out 4 variants because we have some other machine learning models that can still work with for variants to see differences, and it's not quite as granular, but we still get learnings. But if you're not doing that, then then there are kind of two techniques for A/B testing. One is to do, say, a couple of messages that are extremely different from each other and see what results go with, and try to hypothesize yourself, and then create more tests to figure out what exactly it was that did that. The other is to just test a very small thing each time to kind of in many different tests, iterate towards that sort of crazy experimental design type of testing.
Great, great. Another question here that came up. So if we use AI to create content for copy or graphic design, is there a copyright issue?
That is an interesting question that we are all grappling with in AI generally. There's no right answer yet on this. It's a hot button issue because, is training on this data a copyright issue or not? I think, you as someone who is writing copy, you read a lot of books, you looked at a lot of marketing, you trained on everything that everybody else made, and then you created something novel. So from that standpoint, AI is doing the same thing. It read everything that the world made, and it's creating something novel. On the other side, anybody who publishes a book or marketing copy or anything knows what it means for people to read it and did not say, I give permission for machines to read it. So on the other side, maybe there is a copyright issue on that because it's a novel use case that we haven't really, we didn't say I give permission for this, and it might not be something that we're comfortable with. For me, we always coax models to create novel. And by creating novel, they're not, this isn't plagiarism, but that is a risk as well, depending on how models are trained, that they could kind of just go too closely into plagiarism. So it's something, as you work with AI, that I think we all have to grapple with and make sure that we're working with models that we do feel comfortable about the training that they did. Not everyone has done the same type of training on the same type of data, and continually assess whether we think there's a risk.
Oh, thank you for that, Lisa. I know, as you mentioned, it is definitely a hot button issue, and I love your background and insight there. A question that I had, so in some of your previous examples at the early part of your presentation, when you were showing copy examples, you also had emojis in there. And so I'm curious, what is your recommendation when it comes to emoji usage, especially around the holidays?
Use them. We love them. Only caveat if it fits with your brand voice. If you have, a lot of financial services brands, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right. Sometimes really sort of, I don't know, prestige type brands, that's just not really how they speak. You want to be true to you, but emojis are great visuals that work. There are a lot of different things that we measure about language, and one of the things that we measure is formatting. That includes emojis, it includes punctuation, using capital letters or kind of formatted letters. And although we do, we are really focused on the words more than the graphics, that graphical element of words does play a big role. And so when emojis make sense for a brand, then they're great. Also, my other tip on emojis is they need to be contextual, or they just can't be the wrong context. You do have to be careful about emojis, and emojis, just like words, change meaning. So we actually recategorized our kind of what we call our formatting ontology, which is like the wheel of emotions, but it's about how we classify formatting things, which includes emojis, because they do change their meaning over time. And so you do have to be careful that it is relevant, especially when you're targeting audiences that maybe use them more than you do, like Gen Z.
Yes, and I know sometimes some emojis might have different meaning in different contexts. So definitely completely understand there. Okay, another question here. Does Persado provide customization or custom persona for a brand so the copy can be more tuned in to a specific brand voice?
Yes, we do. We do work with every brand that we work with to tune copy to your brand voice. And even sometimes, if you have different brand voices across different product lines or channels, we really work with each of our customers to make sure that all the content is created specifically for their brand voice. It's one of the very first things that we'll talk about when setting you up to use this tool.
What about trending copy, right? So I know, I'm sure you've heard, right, that's trending really hard right now is the very demure, very mindful this copy. What is your recommendation there for brands to use this type of trending copy?
Trends are challenging because trends go really, really quickly. And most copywriters and most copy organizations cannot move quickly enough for trends. Even especially like social trends, like TikTok trends, which and when you're talking about TikTok trends is like trends. Um, it's very, very hard unless you are a solo person who doesn't need any approvals, creating copy to move on trends. And so, what we like to do if we're seeing a type of trend that seems to be working really well is kind of iterate on it, get inspired by it, make it your own, put your own spin from your data onto a certain trend, and then use that because then you're not like behind the bandwagon, which, and maybe it's because we work with a lot of really big organizations that are just not going to move that quickly.
No, I get that. I mean, sometimes it's cringy, right? When you see a brand using a trend, especially in their copy that was a month old, you're like, oh, I kind of missed that
Yeah.
wave. What is the number one mistake that you see a lot of brands make with copy?
They are too product and benefit focused and not thinking about every other part of that language. Like, okay, if your offer is 75% off, yes, that's going to sell itself. It's a high enough number. You probably just want to put it in the front and lead with that. But if the offer or benefits isn't that compelling, then what you need is to find the emotions that resonate with your audience and capture them by saying something like, you've earned something special. And then they get their 20% off deal or whatever it is. We get a lot of kind of controls that come into us that are kind of just like lists of features or benefits. And we always, as the brand, are like, yeah, but that's what differentiates us from our competitors. That's what makes this thing so awesome. That's what we're selling this on. Um, and that is down the funnel, sometimes, depending on what it is, always, but it isn't what gets them in the door.
Yep. No, completely heard. All right, so I know we have another question here, and I think this would be a great segue. Is can you kind of talk about what Persado does and the services that you offer?
Yes. So Persado creates content for your brand, and it creates marketing content for across a variety of different channels, for everything from email subject line and email body to SMS to social. We do a lot of web copy, web banners, in-app copy. For retailers, financial services, insurance, travel, a lot of industries. And what we do is we use AI to create content, and then we test and learn what works for your brand, and then we use that to continually train models to continually make better content. You work with experts at Persado who will try to push you out of your comfort zone a little bit with our test and learn methodology. Try things that might be a little bit more of a stretch, never risking your brand voice. We have folks who are really good at balancing who you are, what your brand is, and how you speak with all of the data that we have as we get going around what type of language works. And so we're there to help you find content that's going to work and measure that it actually truly does work for your KPIs that you set with us. So if that's like application starts is your KPI, then we're going to try to create content that's going to get them to start an application on your website.
I love that. I love how much you and your team really focus on data-driven machine learning copy, right? So this is copy that you know works based on the data and based on your years of expertise.
Exactly. And I'm VP of content intelligence, and sometimes I explain what content intelligence is, and sometimes I just like gloss over that and say it's Prasada's language expertise. But you've actually described what content intelligence is. It's data-backed content and copy that's going to work for you.
Love it. So important and so exciting. All right. Are there any other additional questions from the audience? All right. I think that we might be coming here to the end. Well, Lisa, appreciate your time and thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday. I love this webinar. It's a lot of really great, helpful tips and tricks. So this webinar will be live on YouTube. You will be getting an email of this webinar. It's in its entirety. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to Lisa, here I'll put back her contact information here on the page. So please reach out. Oh, actually, another question just came in. How far in advance should the content be prepared for the holiday season? I mean, now. The answer is now, right?
Now, so that depends on a number of things. It depends on how long your holiday season is. Are you starting in September? Because then the answer is like yesterday. Or, and then that's a brand decision when you're going to start holiday season content. Also, it is a question of how long brands of different sizes takes different amount of time to create content. As I said before, if you're a one-man shop, like, you can make it today and send it next week. If you're going to need to collaborate with different teams because the email marketing team is different than the web team and they have different projects that they're working on, then you may need to get ahead of it. And so I do recommend that in August, you start thinking about your holiday content, your holiday themes. That's another reason, going back to that other question, that like it's really hard to be on trend. If you're starting now and then a trend pops up and you've got, the train is moving, you can adapt as best you can. But yeah, I would always start early for the holidays, especially for retailers where, this is your biggest season.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate your time. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you.